All right. Randy Sosin, welcome.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us at Lingofest. As I was mentioning to you, when we were chatting before the recording, this is part of a series where I'm showcasing folks who are doing stuff in NFTs as opposed to talking, talking about NFTs. There's a lot of talk out there. So first of all, tell us, who you are and what you do, and how did you get interested in NFTs?
So I've been in and around the music business for decades, and I love music, so I'm a fan of it. I've worked in music video and film and content and live events. And recently, the past pretty much 10 years, I've been doing mostly experiential live events, capturing them, live streaming them, mostly in the dance music realm. So big festivals like the Electric Daisy Carnival, which happens in Las Vegas and around the planet. And but when the pandemic hit, most live events went away, and I found my livelihood to be a little, in peril. The pandemic was one thing, but also my professional thing was kind of went away.
Yep.
And so I was, I'm not a spring chicken, but you hear about this stuff in blockchain, and I had invested in some cryptocurrencies, and I, found myself like, okay, what is blockchain? Like, let me learn. I understand what a currency is. And I always felt like cryptocurrency was, people would laugh at it. And I'm like, why? Like, currency is currency. I had a friend that was like, well, until I can go to the store and use Bitcoin to buy my groceries, it doesn't make sense to me. And I said to him, like, so if someone gave you $1 million Jamaican and told you to go to the 7-Eleven and buy them coffee and eggs, what, you wouldn't take the $1 million? Like, you're gonna have to exchange that. You can't go into 7-Eleven and take $1 million Jamaican and buy anything. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth something. There's exchanges and ways to do it, and currency is currency.
Yep.
And I think as I started to learn, then I delved into the Ethereum of it all and understanding how like where Bitcoin is one thing, and then Ethereum, the non-fungible token of it and what that means. And so to me, and then NFTs kind of came out as this, well, it's just a JPEG. You can right click it. And I'm like, yeah, I would say to people, like, do your research. Like, this is a smart contract on a blockchain that allows you to, like, incredible applications as a utility. And so, like, for me, I looked at the NFTs and specifically how it applied to the music business.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the opportunity that the business has been waiting for, because music in general is a very exciting business, but it's terrible for the creators and the artists. They're like the last people that get paid on the chain, and the recorded music business itself is complicated on purpose. But the rights holders make all the money. And so with the advent of NFTs, you can create realms now for artists to be the rights holders, to monetize themselves with their art of whatever that is, the music, the song, the model, the myriad of things that they have, and keep track of it on a blockchain, because it's mostly visible on the blockchain. There are some anonymity. You don't have to necessarily know who the person is, but you can see it in a wallet. And so to me, like, there's a real application. I understand people's hesitancy when they just read an article in Forbes or Wall Street Journal and think it's ridiculous, because, why is a CryptoPunk worth $13 million or something? It's like, it's all in scope of what the understanding is. And, like you were saying, like, there is a lot of people taking advantage of the situation. There's criminals and crooks in everything. There's criminals and crooks in real estate. There's criminals and crooks in banking, like any business is going to have people that take advantage of the system. So I don't think NFTs and cryptocurrency are any different. You're finding, right away, it's, and I think a lot of the money in crypto comes from the cannabis world, where they're not legally allowed to put money in banks. So they're just trying to find a place to put their money, because people buy alcohol, people buy cannabis, and now that it's legalized in a myriad of states, there's money there, and they can't deposit it in a bank. So they're like, all right, well, let's buy Bitcoin, let's buy Ethereum, let's buy Shiba, whatever. Let's buy something
I mean,
so that our money's liquid.
Isn't it interesting that all of the almost all of the innovations, things that push the envelope, are in things that are, let's call it, vice things, right? Pornography and
100%. That's it.
right? Like
Yeah.
like I guarantee you that the video, what do call it, innovations in the last many years, many of them came from there, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Because that's where the money is. People, it's human nature. Same thing with alcohol. Same thing. It's interesting, isn't
The
it?
internet. Once you were able to see physical pictures and moving pictures on the internet, people were like immediately going to pornography.
Of course,
so
yeah.
that became this thing where people started to gravitate towards this thing that everyone thought was, it's a fad. Like think about it. Like 30 years ago, people thought the internet was a fad. You're like,
Yes,
now you can't live without it.
Same thing. The iPhone is a fad.
Exactly.
Social media is a fad.
YouTube.
I personally thought that YouTube was nonsense. No, Twitter was even worse, I thought, right?
And so for me, as a person of I'm older, whatever, I'm in my 50s. So, Twitter, I understood why, and I have respect for the platform. It's just not something that I use. It's not that I think it's a fad or anything. So like TikTok, I get the TikTok world. It's just not for me.
No, I mean, we used to think about something being a fad and very, dismissively. I no longer do that, to be honest with you. I used to. Now I don't think that Twitter is a fad because I use it every day. But when it came out, I think we were of the mentality of, okay, it's YouTube. What is this, videos? I mean, why would I go and watch a video?
Right.
But now, if I need to fix anything, I don't know about you. If I need to fix it, I go to YouTube.
Anything.
Or I want to learn anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, listen, I do like a myriad of things. One of the things I do is a podcast. And so I don't have any money. I'm making my own podcast about music videos and stuff because I've made a lot of music videos. And so I had to learn how to make my art. So I went onto YouTube and learned Illustrator and learned how to do these, it was free. Took me, whatever.
Absolutely. I
half
think
hour and I learned it,
I think, and tell me what you think. I think that one of the reasons why folks are like, what is this NFT, is because they see like these little JPEGs and they are worth X thousands or millions of dollars. Like, well, clearly there is madness here, right? That will fade away, right? And I think what they miss, which is unfortunate because it sort of turns them away from understanding that there is something very solid about the crypto. That there is something new and solid and real that solves real problems, and including NFTs. The fact that you can, in the digital world, which is all about ones and zeros, you can create scarcity, right? That otherwise it's almost impossible to create. You can say this particular thing, using the smart contract, this particular, audio, we have created a contract and it was minted on a certain date and by so-and-so, and here it is. And somebody buys it, and maybe this so-and-so becomes famous in 10 years or 5 years, whatever it may be. All of a sudden, that thing, which was worth maybe $1,000 or $100, is now worth a lot. And now what people don't understand, which is to your point about content creators always being screwed, is, okay, you created a piece of content, you are the creator, you sold it for $500. Down the line, it becomes $1 million thing. Because of NFTs and the fact that they can track it, you can get some of that, which is fair, right? What do you think?
Well, that's it in a nutshell, as far as the utility of an NFT. Mm-hmm. The applications are I understand if you're a gamer why you hate NFTs, because I'm not a gamer, but I know they don't want to pay for the game itself. They certainly don't want to pay. They want to earn their cool stuff within the world. They don't want someone to be able to come in and throw down $1,000 and just get the cool sword that they spent 6 months earning.
Sure.
And because they have money, they can do it. They don't have the money. They're just good at the game. NFTs aren't exciting to gamers, and I understand that. And there's a lot of hate in that world. Yeah. If you're let's just take college textbooks. Every college textbook will be an NFT within the next 5 years. Publishers will no longer have to print them. They will be this digital asset that you buy to use temporarily and then put them back up on the exchange for the next batch of students to use them for the next semester. And the publisher will get their 15% of that exchange when the NFT changes hands from this person to that person.
Yeah, everybody wins.
Yeah, I think some of the things right now, the NFT, the exciting thing for NFTs in the world today is applying it to the physical world. Like I'm working on a side project of like just classic cars and luxury sports cars, because each car has a VIN number. So each VIN number can be attached to an NFT, and that NFT can keep track of everything that's been done to it, paint jobs, maintenance, tire changes.
Love
so
that.
it's all within the contract. And then you sell that and you can follow it where it is. And, you know, my friend does these things and like, he's like, well, no one will want to give a piece of anything to the next person. I'm like, in today's world, you know, in 2022, I said by 2030, there's going to be a whole new generation of people who have money who are used to this, how it works. And so there's going to be an NFT of that car that they bought for $100,000. And maybe you put it in where like anything over $200,000, you can double your money on this. Anything over $200,000, I get 20%.
Yeah.
Right? So that person sells it for $1 million. They made $100,000 on the initial thing, and then you get 20% of that 800,000.
It's only fair. It's only fair because you enabled all that, right?
Correct. Correct.
And
so there's a way to trace it on a blockchain, and that's why I say to people, like, blockchains are not hackable. Wallets are hackable. You know, bridges are hackable. You know, like people are like, oh, I saw Polygon got hacked. There goes your theory about blockchains. I'm like, Polygon's not a blockchain. You know, they're a bridge to a great blockchain. And there's always susceptibilities. Like you've got to be careful, you know, like that's the thing. But
well,
like,
I mean, anything that's valuable, or powerful,
people are going to try and get at.
Yeah, is risky, right? And so you go in with that's the series is all about alerting folks and educating so that by being aware, you reduce the risk, you reduce making the wrong decision, or you reduce the risk of making bad assumptions and acting on those bad assumptions. Correct. And when you were talking about, actually, you triggered a thought in my mind when you were talking about, hey, maybe people today don't think like that, but they will in the future. I think that's right on the money, because I do remember right now, people like the youngsters who were born in the mid 90s and late 90s and all that, those guys, they are totally comfortable with the rent economy, all right? Which folks like us who are a little bit older than them, we were thinking about the property economy. I buy a car, I buy a house, they rent, right? They you know, it's about not owning, renting. So therefore it gives them, because why? Because they are more nomadic, they don't settle, and so on and so forth. So I think you're right. I think the ethos will change. And with it, a lot of things that now seem dubious, whatever, will be just totally normal in the future.
I think it's like, that's what the NFT, and like in music in particular, you know, like you're talking about a business that's 70 years old, right? Maybe, you know, and the whole concept of it really didn't come into like its own until the 50s, the Elvis Presley of it all, where like records were made in the 30s and 40s, but like Elvis Presley kind of solidified this younger generation to buying records and buying a 45 and buying a thing and buying into an artist. And then you got the 60s, this explosion, the Beatles, and
albums,
albums, and then 70s, and then like 80s, the corporations came in and they've kind of like, this is how we make money. There is a thing, but it was a closed system, right?
Yes.
And so the concept was like, you make music somewhat affordable to the person, and whatever it was back in the day, $5, and then the CDs were $15, but it was a closed system where you had to hear a song and you had to buy it. And then come, you know, 2000, all of a sudden the internet gets involved, and you can download music for free, right? So all these platforms have been set up to stream music. That kind of, the goal wasn't to pay the artist more money. The goal was to keep the copyright owners from like give people platforms so that the copyright owners could still monetize the copyright without people wanting to download it. It was just easier to listen to it. And that's where we are, like, right? So the goal for me in the NFT world is to show new artists and new people that you don't want to sell 1 million records or as many records are. You only want to sell 5,000. Everyone can listen to your music on streaming. And, you know, if they want to participate in royalties, very quickly people realize that, oh, but that's got 50 million streams. Why aren't I only getting a check for $13.61? It's like, welcome to the world of being a musician, you know, like
right.
Everyone loves your song. You get $13, you know, like
that's right. Yeah. I mean, and I think so. Now the question becomes, which is a great question. I think in my mind that I've heard people ask is, so what is Sony? What's the value of Sony? Like the Sony, its value was when things were very hard to distribute in the past. Now it's easy to distribute, right? It's easy to find. I can just do a search. it's a whole new world, and so they are just glomming on, and they need to move on, or we need to move on from that model. I think we need peer to peer, like you said. I think it's
It
perfect,
is peer to peer. That's what it
right?
is. Yep.
What you said is perfect, which is you don't need to sell a million records to make a nice living. You could be a musician, you could be you can live a nice middle class life, make a, you don't have to, because people think either I become a star or I'm a loser. Why do we think like that in art, right?
Definitely. Yep.
Right, you should, why don't you, like, okay, every day, every morning you wake up, you do your art, you have a nice life, nice balance, you create, and there's people who value what you do, they compensate you for it, you are making a living. You don't have to be
Yeah.
a star, whatever. If you do become a star, that's great. But if you don't, there are people who are getting value, and you're getting, you're living a meaningful life and creative life, and you're delivering value to society. I think that's where we're going. It feels like to me.
Well, but it's also like you minimize the amount of like you create scarcity of your what people can
Yes,
own,
yes, yes,
So
yes.
for
That's
new
true.
artists, it is a little bit more of a harder, bit like taller steps up. But if
Yep.
you're a heritage artist, like whatever, just I don't know what kind of music you listen to, but like
Rock, just your
okay,
regular rock.
rock. So let's
Mm.
just say you're Aerosmith or
Yeah,
you're whoever, like you don't have to you like, or Devo. Let's say a band like Devo, or
evil.
like
Yes.
like like a cool band that can do their thing. Like in my mind, like my advice to them is like make a new record and only sell
Hmm.
1,000 of them or 5,000 of them in
Right.
different iterations. Make some of them vinyl and attach
Yeah.
that to an NFT.
Yeah.
Make some of
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
waves, like,
Yeah.
and then you only everyone can listen to your new record on whatever platform. Put it out there,
Yeah.
but only 5,000 people have a Devo album in
Right.
their
Right.
digital wallet.
Create
And
scarcity.
that,
Yes.
yeah, and
Yes.
it's
Yes.
also like a badge of thing. Like I own a piece of the Devo
That's
thing,
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think so let's do this experiment or exercise. Imagine imagine someone, I mean, well, you don't have to imagine because it's almost people are like that. Like, how would you convince someone that they not necessarily need to buy into NFTs, but at least they stop being dismissive and they invest a little bit of time and effort to learn more about it? What did you say to them to get them from, eh, this is bullshit, and then to, all right, let me think about it? How would you get them there?
I would just say like the world we live in is ever evolving. And so this
Mhm.
is the platform and the way that people are going to be exchanging, like your world. If you're dismissive of NFTs, that means you probably don't have a digital wallet, and you can get a digital wallet for free and you can put $10 in it. But
Yeah.
go and just do some research. There's hundreds of them.
Yep.
Get a digital wallet and see what it is, because what you have today, if you're a 40, 50, 67-year-old person, you have a Facebook page. That seems relative, and you're relative. You will have a digital wallet. You'll have multiple digital wallets. You'll have ones that have your money. There are ones that have your cool stuff. Will you ever be putting on VR glasses to do things? Maybe not. And people talk a lot about the metaverse. It's a buzz phrase that people use, but like right now, I always say to people like, the metaverse in today's world is Fortnite or Roblox, where it's a two-dimensional thing, and you go in, you are connecting with other people as an avatar, but it's a closed wall system, and you can't get out, you can't go in or out of it without it, without them doing it. So you may never understand it, but trust me when I tell you, as a person of whatever, in 5 years, the digital wallet is going to be something. So I would say to
Yep.
people, like, get a digital wallet and
Yeah.
just start there. And
Yeah.
you'll see, like, do you need digital assets? Maybe you never will. But that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be an entire generation and the following generations that's how they're going to show you who they are. And that's
Yeah.
going to be their Twitter page. People want a blue check next to their name on Twitter and Instagram.
Mhm.
That's why people are going to want to have a Devo or an Aerosmith token in their,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then the thing is, like, the fascinating thing about NFTs is like it's a utility. At the end of the day, it's a utility,
Right.
and you can't be a purist, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an artist and you want to create, figure out what platform works for you and how you want to do that to be within the system, because the NFT today exists in two different realms based on the smart contract, where you have an NFT that's an NFT, and then you have this like ability to fractionalize that NFT,
Mhm.
right? Where like you can sell pieces of it. So that's where there's also going to be this whole world of like, who owns a full NFT and who owns a fraction of an NFT, which they do with stocks, right? You can now buy
That's right. I mean,
$50 worth of Apple.
I think that's the model to lean on to get people to understand. It's like, okay, what if
It's like a
you
stock. It's like our own piece of stock.
exactly. So there is a small company or there's an artist and you want to have a piece of them, and if they become somebody, right? Then it's like a stock. I think so. That's what I'm trying to find in my conversation.
That's what it is. It's a utility that can be used as a digital stock.
Yeah, among other things, but also as a digital. So let's talk about the company you have. So what are you doing? What's the name of your company? The X project?
The X, yeah. So the X is like it's based out of Amsterdam. And so I'm the chief creative officer here in North America. And again, like the X was one of those, the kind of which drove me into blockchain, because what we do is help people create the entire experience of a brand, So like what I was doing at Insomniac, we're doing with other promoters, and we did a big installation for Budweiser at the Super Bowl in 2020.
Wow.
We're working with Budweiser for the World Cup in Qatar in 2022.
Oh, really?
Wow. But again, it's like live events, right? So that's the basis of the thing. And so that's when I said to, the powers that be, and they're really going through it. Like in America, we're having issues, but in European countries, there's a different type of control that the government has. And so a lot of my friends in Amsterdam are just frustrated because they can't do anything here. Like I live in California, there's a mask mandate, but you wouldn't know it. Going to the Super Bowl, you wouldn't know there's a mask mandate in California. No one wears a mask, like you're supposed to, and they're supposed to ask you for your card and do anything, but no one really does.
No.
People deal with it the way, like that's not what happens.
Are they jealous, I guess, of the disorder?
A little bit. Because everyone's frustrated. People are frustrated. So what we do at the X is try and create it, but it is starting to come back. But I'm glad I've had the opportunity, because now we can add. And brands are going to have a hard time figuring out what NFTs are and how they're valuable. I see major labels and people using NFTs as a buzz term, but there's not real value in their NFT to what it will mean, in 5 years. So if you're somebody who has a Budweiser NFT right now, and it's like a GIF of a Bud Light logo or something, or like what is that really worth to you, unless they start to make these programs where you have to have that to get into an event, or you have to have that in order to do these things.
Right. I mean, they're using them today for like tickets, ensuring that tickets, there's
tickets. Now that's the thing, like Ticketmaster,
right?
Like if you're an artist and you're Beyonce, like you're one click away from being able to sell your tickets directly to your fans.
Oh, I don't understand why they don't do that, to be honest with you, especially if you're a Beyonce. But
again, the music business is set up as a complicated maze. So Beyonce wants to tour the world, which, that's a way to make money, but it's very complicated to tour. You're talking about armies of people that have to set the stage, sell the equipment, rent the thing, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the promoters own the real estate. Yeah. So if you're in Washington, D.C., if you want to play whatever, Merriweather Post or wherever the Washington Wizards play, whatever, somebody owns that building, and it's usually the promoter. So you can't get into that building unless you're working within their ecosystem, a Live Nation or an AEG,
Right.
So that's why it becomes complicated. As soon as the leases run out or the ability goes, like bigger artists will be able to do that. They'll be able to run their own realm and sell tickets for cheaper, or whatever. $100 ticket will be $100 ticket. Most people buy $100 ticket and it's $175 when you're done with the fees and the blah and the service and the transaction and the thing, So
I mean, why? Just that I'm trying to learn here. So like Beyonce, because she's these outliers who have a lot of money, I think, right, or could have a lot of money and have massive audience and huge brand. I mean, she could easily, I think, cancel all her contracts with anyone and just say, I own my content. I'm not going to tour anymore. Let's just say that, right? And I'm going to sell directly peer to peer, right? Why wouldn't she do that? I guess is she still hung up, I think, on the older model, perhaps?
I think so. There's a little bit of that, I think for somebody of any big artist, like there is a thrill to walking into an arena or a stadium.
That's true.
And like I don't know, if I've been fortunate to work with some very big artists, and I'm not, but like being on stage or just being on the back, and when they walk out and you hear that roar. Like
Yeah.
even being
Yeah.
the
It's
side
not
of
about the
thing,
money only. Yeah.
it's infectious. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, the amount of energy
Yeah.
and love you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
is like you get goosebumps, and then they come
Yeah.
out and they,
They-
they hit that chord and everyone goes crazy, and you're like, so
yeah.
there is a
Yep.
palpability of like wanting to perform live,
Absolutely. Yeah. And
but you
so,
can make it more special, and I think people are
yeah.
doing that,
And are there like and say, let's say somebody's touring, right? Can they just pay for? I mean, just
Yes.
pay for being there, and that's it, and no more
So
than that.
those models are going to start to
Yeah.
break
Yeah.
down, and then like
Yeah.
again, but like NFTs today, I always say like we might not even call them NFTs in 5 years. Like
Sure. That's a good
it
point.
does. Like an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain is a valuable commodity, but it's not easily attainable for everyone to create NFTs for every ticket because there
Yeah.
are gas fees, there are minting issues, and that is part of the reason that they're there is to create the scarcity and uniqueness of an NFT on an Ethereum blockchain. So
Yeah.
now you have
Yeah.
these bridges, the polygons, and all these people that are building bridges to the platform that are much easier to mint and make it easier. But then it does become harder to trace, and you have to go through their ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're attaching.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh, I minted all my NFTs on OpenSea. I'm like, that's great, but you realize like OpenSea is going to be taking a piece of that forever. Like, really? What do you mean? I'm like, well, you use their system to make your NFT.
Yeah, the middleman. Yeah.
They built the template. So in
Yep.
that template, they're charging you 2.5% or whatever they're going to charge you every
Yeah.
time that NFT changes. And like, I didn't realize that's like, I'm like, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if there's value to it. But
Yeah.
so like, if you're Beyonce, you're going to have to figure, like, there has to be an ecosystem that's built where it's like, you can make all your tickets, we'll white label it for you. We're going to take 1% or 0.0% of blah, 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 and we'll create your ecosystem so that people can easily buy and sell
Yeah.
tickets, and you can go directly to your fans.
Yeah. And then somebody like Beyonce can create their own blockchain if they want.
They
I mean,
could.
what is it? It's just it's software. A blockchain is nothing more than a software, and engineers.
And
And
nodes.
it's
You have
it's a
to
team.
motivate the computers to want to be
Right.
on the blockchain, right?
That's right.
So
That's right. And nodes.
but
Yeah.
yes, you're right. Like if you have that kind of money,
Create your own currency.
yeah,
So when you
I'm guessing the governments are going to have their own blockchain, and with 50 years from now, you won't be given a social security number. You'll be
Yeah.
issued what the
Yeah.
equivalent of today is an
Yeah.
NFT,
Yeah.
and you'll keep all your banking records, your medical records, everything,
Right.
and it's yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Now,
distinct to you.
So you made this point that maybe it's not going to be called NFTs, and I think I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that I didn't occur to me, and I started thinking, maybe you'll start calling them like it's a smart contract, a smart badge, a smart ticket,
Yeah,
a smart
exactly.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
people say, oh, smart means digitally
Secure,
whatever. It's
and
secure. It's secure and can't be hacked. That's what smart
and,
means,
and
right?
anonymous, secure and
Anonymous.
anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
value.
you don't need a password. Like once the NFT is
Right.
minted on the blockchain,
Don't
it
need it.
recognizes that NFT is what it is. It can move from digital wallet to digital wallet and move around wherever it goes, but
That's
it
right.
can't be changed, right?
That's
You
right.
can't
That's
do
right.
anything to it. So
And
it's
then-
a secure thing, and it acknowledges
Yeah.
that it is what it is, and that's it.
Yep. Yep. No, wonderful. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll you you gave me a couple of
Okay,
ideas,
good.
and I
I'm
learned a whole
happy.
bunch of.
When I was like, oh
things.
yeah, I'd love to talk about NFTs. Anyone who wants to talk about NFTs, I'll talk. People are like
Appreciate
my
that.
brain hurts. I'm like, I know.
No, I think this was good. This was good. Well, you and I keep talking.
cool.
I think
Please.
there's a lot of stuff. I love people who do audio stuff, as well as NFTs and blockchain. I think this is going to be going to very, very interesting places, and we're fortunate that I think we're here when the internet was born. We were here when social media was born. We were here when mobile was born. We're
Yep.
here when the blockchain is born. I mean, I feel very lucky to have
Me
witnessed
too.
all this. Yeah.
That's why I say to people like, oh, it's complicated. I'm like, it's not as complicated as you think, but the truth is like, just embrace it with what you get a digital wallet.
Yeah.
Figure out what it is. Look at cryptocurrencies. You don't have to buy them. Just look at what they are. They're going to fluctuate, of course. Like, and I say to people like, don't just go buy cryptocurrencies and think you're going to make a lot of money. Like that's a skill. That's an investment thing. Like you have to understand. You have to be, be careful. But I said, Ethereum today is whatever it is, $2,500. Like it's going to be a $50,000 coin once the system lays out and there becomes a real, ecosystem that goes in there.
Yeah. No, it's not going away because there's a lot of value that it's generating.
Correct. And same
wonderful.
with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It has value. People.
It does. It does.
People
And I
are
think
buying
anything,
it,
I mean, like the internet, when you know, there's the internet and there's the web. The internet, before the web, the internet would go for, I don't remember like how we went and exchanged
How do you even get
files.
it on it? You had to go
Yeah.
through
Oh my gosh, it was,
your
and
phone
then
line and
the phone
connect
lines
with a
and the modem.
modem and
Exactly. And then you had to know a lot. You had to know a lot. For example, if let's say you want to set a website up, oh my gosh, I mean, you had to be a, you know, a CTO of some company,
yep.
right? But then, right, things evolve, such as people who use the internet, they don't know at all how it works. They don't care,
They don't have to.
which is they don't have to. And so why should they? You know, they know email. They just type, boom, it goes. You don't need to know that there is, you know, a pop and whatever
Correct.
behind it,
Yep.
right?
No,
I think that's
exactly.
where we're going. I think we're going to a place where people will just focus on the value, which is as it should be. It's a tool. There's life doing the meaningful things, and these are just tools, new tools, right? That
Yep.
enable us to do
That's
interesting
it.
things.
That's it. And there's a security and like you said, a smart contract. That's what
Right.
it is. You know?
It's solving. I think it's the FTs are solving problems that will enable us to go to the next level in the digital world. I think.
And for me, will actually
Remember.
allow artists and creators the ability to control their own destiny and own their copyright. That's the key that I say, like, own your copyright. That's where all the money is. That's why Universal Music Group's worth $42 billion. They own millions of copyrights.
Yeah. And I think the disruption is going to be so major. The thing that I'm watching is these folks are not idiots. These folks that, Spotify and whatever platforms that make money, they know it's coming down the pike. What are they doing to sort of sabotage the system? Sabotage in the sense that's co-opted, right? Or whatever, right? So that because for them, it's not in their interest to have the peer-to-peer
at all,
right?
No.
And so what's going to happen?
Problem.
It's going to be a battle.
Yeah,
that's going
to
be a
Napster
battle.
was not peer-to-peer, right? That was a really good system where they was all on one server and they could control it. They smashed it thinking it was terrible, and everything went peer-to-peer, and that's where the problems came in.
Right.
You know, Nutella and LimeWire and all those things were now peer-to-peer systems that people could just exchange music on their own computers, you know, and that's where the whole house of cards fell down. And so they stem that, right, with what they're doing. They're going to have an issue, you know, like as a new ecosystem gets built, it will take down what they do. But, you know, like I said, that's why they're buying Bruce Springsteen and Sting and all these David Bowie, these catalogs for hundreds of millions so that they own them.
They own that.
If you ever want to listen to Bruce and if you ever want to listen to David Bowie, like you have to pay them to listen to them.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's they have the capital and they have the connections and all. So I think that was what they're doing.
Yep.
Randy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. You got my email. Let me know if you want to talk again. I'm happy to, or I'm happy to do a discussion with group people and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of potential here for doing providing more meaning and information for our audience and you know, and the ecosystem at large.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too.